we should focus on what could happen, starting with the big news concerning Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, a lot has changed since we were last in the studio covering Manchester United. At the time, it looked like he had just decided to walk off early, having been an unused substitute. But it then transpired that Cristiano Ronaldo decided he didn't want to come on, that he didn't fancy it, and said, no, I'm just going to go. Well, and it was confirmed by Ten Hag in his press conference that he refused to come off the bench. What happens next?
Obviously, he says he's going to still count on him. I don't think he has any other option because he doesn't have 2,000 strikers on the bench, so he has to still counting on him at least until January, and then we'll see what happens with him. But obviously, I talked about it the other day in the game that we watched actually we were live here in this game, and I didn't agree what he's done. It's very unrespectful to the fans, very unrespectful to your teammates, and I'm not sure if he actually, because he apologized for it, I'm not sure if he's a true apologize.
He didn't actually say sorry. He put up a post on his social media, but he didn't actually use the words, I'm sorry or I apologize.
Yeah, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think he feels sorry about it. But it's true that Cristiano is always the news. Look, we are actually talking about it. After the game, you don't talk about the 2-0 from United and how good they actually play. We're talking about Cristiano Ronaldo, and he knows that. And even knowing that, he does that. You know, that when he knows it's no good for the team. When the team, actually, for me, it was the best performance they did in the whole season for now. So, obviously, Mike maybe have another opinion, but definitely...
No, I think, you know, at the time, you never know what's going on in a player's mind. Yes, I'd agree that walking down the tunnel before the finishes of the game is not an acceptable situation. But I don't think that it's going to create any real turmoil within the group. You know what I mean? I think he's been spoken to. That's a fact. He's been left out of the squad. He's been disciplined in a way, and I think you just take the consequences of your actions. You know, and I think he's grown up enough to do that. You know, the error of your ways sometimes.
Does he feel sorry? Do you think?
I've no idea. I can't speak for him on that point. But I would think, you know, he looks at it from his own personal point of view. You know, and whether we agree or we disagree, it's an issue that has to be dealt with. Now, whether that's a Ten Hag issue to deal with or whether that's a football club issue to deal with, that will suddenly manifest itself now because it's not going to go away. And until we either see him back in a United shirt, back on the bench or in the starting lineup, then we'll really be able to calculate where we are at this moment in time.
I've heard a couple of his former teammates try to defend him. I think he's indefensible. You know, you cannot... If you're a player for any club and you're on the bench and the coach wants you to go on, you know, you have to honour your contract. You have to go on the park. You have to play. And then to kind of go on top of that and walk off before the game ends. That said, Ronaldo has been a fantastic player. I'm a great admirer of him.
One of the greatest of all time.
He got it just totally wrong. Disrespectful to manager, coach, club, fans, football.
Are you in agreement with that, the disrespect? Because we talked about the title,
agree with that, simply because... When was the time he walked in? What was the time of the game? Do we know?
Well, I believe
was it 10 minutes? Was it 5 minutes? Was it 3 minutes?
4 minutes of additional time.
Right.
So maybe he needed the toilet, did he?
No, you mentioned that, didn't you? You mentioned that. But,
not for me, I agree with that.
I would think from the point of view of...
You're trying to defend him now, aren't you?
I'm not defending him, no, I'm not. I'm just trying to point out the fact that we don't know what was going through his mind. There's 3 minutes to go. What are you putting a centre forward on for? With 2-0 up, 3 minutes to go. To win the game?
No, they were going to put him on earlier in the game, weren't they?
When he walked off with a few minutes left.
With about sort of, 4 minutes of additional time to play.
Well, to refuse to go on, depending on the moment of the game, you know, if it was 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then yeah, that's not a good thing to do. I mean, that is a problem. But to actually then go in, and if it was sort of nearer to the end of the game, I would say, well, what player does want to come on at that moment in time when you're 2-0 up?
Okay.
There's not many.
That's in his head. What about in a manager's perspective?
Oh, a manager wants every player available. I get that. That's the priority. You know, every player who's there in the squad, on the bench, is available to play. And I think they still had 1 or 2 substitutions they could have made.
They did, yeah.
So he's obviously thought at that moment in time, 3 minutes to go, I want to kill the game, I want to stick with 2-0. Not many managers bring on a centre forward at that point. They'll bring on a midfield player or a defender. So, you know, there may be something in that, I don't know. But what I would say is, it's not acceptable if he's asked him to go on earlier than that, because it's a different stage of the game. But with 3-4 minutes of extra time, United aren't going to lose that game.
Would you have been fuming yourself?
I'd have been a little bit perplexed by
Ronaldo.
it, to be honest. I'd have had a little thought and was wondering what the heck's going on. Yeah, for sure. But I think you would have dealt with it exactly like Ten Hag's done. He doesn't want to deter from the result and the performance more than the result as well. It was excellent. So he doesn't really want to go into that discussion there and then, and he's dealt with it the way he sees fit the day after. And he told the media that he was going to deal with it in the morning, and he did. So we shall see now where it goes from there.
Final question on this topic, players' perspective. What are the rest of the squad going to be thinking? Mike just said it's not going to affect anything, the morale, I believe, the words you used.
I agree that it will not affect the next game today. It's not going to affect you in the performance-wise. But if I was one of the teammates, I would say, what he's doing. It's just a little bit of respect. Even like we are talking about, is Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best players ever. That doesn't take that away. But it's unrespectful to your teammates, the fans, the club. I completely agree with Gary. I don't think, even if they want to play you 1 minute, you still, at the end of the month, they're going to pay him his salary. Now, if I was Ten Hag, I would say, well, that week, you didn't want to play, we don't pay you that week. You will be happy. That's what I mean. I think it's, even if he has a lot and doesn't care too much, but it's perspective, players' perspective. If I was on the bench with him, I would not be happy. And I'm sure some players with the wife and other teammates definitely was something to talk about. Definitely, in my opinion.
Well, even if he gets fined 2 weeks' wages, I read that would be about £1 million for him. So that's, I know it's
not
a lot.
Well, but really briefly, to put it in perspective, I think Manchester United are a lesser side today because Ronaldo isn't available. And the reason he's not available is because Ten Hag had to lay down the law and has left him out of the squad. So it's to Manchester United's detriment. Whether he starts today or he's on the bench today, which
you would like to have him.
You would love to have him available because he's Cristiano Ronaldo.
Correct. I agree.
If you don't do nothing about what's happened, then other teammates, maybe they say, well, it's Cristiano, they don't do anything.
He did exactly the right thing, but he's lessened Manchester United by doing it, which is to the club's disadvantage.
That's a really, really good point as well. Who doesn't want a Ronaldo to be at least on the bench as an option to call upon?